Jon and Tom stand tall, discussing corruption, answering the call. Osceola's whispers, the truth we unveil. With each podcast episode, we set sail. Unsanctioned voices, we won't be ignored. Taking through lies, we strike a chord. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Politicians trembling, they know we're awake. With facts on our side, we're here to shake. From local elections to making it clear, together we rise, let's spread the fear. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. So tune in each week, don't miss the show. Jon and Tom will help you know.
You can get some.
Floridians know that Governor DeSantis will never be deterred from standing for what's right. And I don't say that as Lieutenant Governor. I say that, most importantly, as a mother of three and a woman of faith. And I believe that those of us that prescribe to our faith have a special responsibility to stand up for what is right, to protect life. We are right next door to St. Teresa, one of the most iconic churches in Miami-Dade County. And just yesterday, thousands of people walked through that door and through the doors of churches all around our state to pray, to worship, to hear the word of God. And while I know that one of our doctors said this isn't a religious amendment, here's what I will say. We cannot go to church and pray like Christians and turn around and vote like atheists.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
Is it where you thought it would be in 2024?
Well, you kind of enter into this, they say you build it and it will come. Right. I wish I understood better how slow that can actually be. So they're going to see results, they're going to see benefits. It's very similar to, we're not as big as Medical City, but the companies are going to start coming in. My view of it, we're in a 4-year run, not a 10-year run. My view of it, we're in a 4-year run, not a 10-year run.
So what happened with the other 6 years?
Man.
What happened with the other 6 years?
Osceola County math right there, where you can say that something is supposed to take 2 years, but it takes 10, but you only give them credit for 4. Listen, Don Fisher is the worst county manager in Central Florida by far. I can't think of someone that's worse. I wish that they would trade him out for Kissimmee city manager. That guy's Mike Steyerwald. He just seems to be a much more interested in the results of his work than in the politics of his work, right? And man, what an absolute disgrace this guy is to the county. In 100 years, this guy is going to, essentially what we have in Osceola County is an I-4 eyesore, right? That's what Neo City has become. Absolutely. And at least the I-4, the eyesore on I-4, at least you can see the progress, right? Every couple of years, you'll see like a window go up or whatever, but at the end of the day, in Neo City, we're just throwing more money into it. At least they're not spending money on the eyesore, they're just doing, it's just, they're throwing more, building more road. They're trying to make it more attractive. Then they pay a company $5 million for people just to say the name Neo City. I mean, it's absurd. And the reason it's not going to work is because of the talent that is surrounding the project right now, which is a lack of talent, right? They have no talent. These guys, you can't have somebody like Don Fisher, Ricky Booth, and Brandon Arrington surrounding a project and expect for it to become successful. It just can't happen. It's like saying that the Bad News Bears are going to win the World Series. It's never going to happen. Welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. This is episode 33, lucky number 33, November 2nd, 2024. We got a ton of stuff to talk about. Some of the stories that we're going to be covering today, what we just saw, that video, man, what a powerful statement on Amendment 4. We cannot pray like Christians and vote like atheists. I think I'm going to remember that line. We're going to have to make a short of that and send it out. Osceola's Field of Dreams or Field of Nightmares. Which one is actually more closer to the truth? We'll talk about that later on. Florida sues the DOJ. Florida mail, the mail-in ballots exceed the 2016 total vote numbers. That's pretty crazy, right? I mean, now you got to really check out these. Can you imagine if Trump were to lose Florida? We all know that can't happen, right, in a real world. But with all these mail-in ballots, and I think that we're going to see a lot of Republicans voting by mail in this election cycle. But wow, it's a terrifying prospect, Dems running for seats hundreds of miles away from where they live. An election worker fired after ballots. Miami-Dade election worker fired after ballots discovered abandoned. The Orlando Sentinel has a lot of explaining to do. Nothing about what they're doing makes sense right now, which is probably why it's a dying newspaper. Orlando mayor loses composure over the shooting that happened in downtown. The Kissimmee Police Chief resigns in Kissimmee. That was a big surprise to everybody, but not to people who were paying attention, I guess. Modern day cattle rustling story. If that's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen in Osceola County. And the new Parkway project brings mixed feelings by Osceola's residents. And then Osceola's big, expensive nothing burger. We're going to talk more about that. I imagine that's a story about Neo City. Osceola GOP fights the county's election interference. And more on this episode of Unsanctioned Florida. We're going to say a quick prayer and then get right down to business. Lord, we are truly grateful to be in this great state of Florida. We're also truly blessed to be just an American in general, to be in this country where we have the right, although many of us don't use it. We have the right to speak out on our government, to address our issues, to speak in public about what our problems are. That's not a freedom that everyone gets. And those freedoms we know come from you. And we are truly grateful and blessed for it. We acknowledge you for it. And we really hope that the American electorate comes out and glorifies you with biblically centered votes in just a few days here, Lord. So we pray for all those people who are running and for our citizens just to take part and do their civic duty. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Get to it.
All right. Showing that video. I guess that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. But anyway, John.
That's going to come later. That's going to come later.
That's coming later. But anyway, we're going to start off with this story. Merrick Garland's garbage DOJ is being sued by Florida over this Trump assassination investigation. There's old Merrick right there. Florida sued Attorney General Merrick Garland on Wednesday, saying the Justice Department is improperly blocking the state from investigating the second assassination attempt of former President Trump. Ron DeSantis issued an executive order directing Florida agencies to ensure that appropriate state charges are brought against Ryan Ralph, whom federal authorities have indicted on 5 counts after he allegedly showed up to Trump's golf course intending to shoot him. Allegedly, he did.
Yeah.
The complaint filed by Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody's office says that FBI and Justice Department officials almost immediately began attempting to halt the state's investigation. In conversations with federal officials and subsequent correspondence, these officials have stated that Florida may not conduct its own investigation, may not interview witnesses, and may only cooperate with the federal government's investigation. Court documents indicate the officials have cited a statute enabling federal authorities to suspend the exercise of jurisdiction by a state when a case involves the attempted assassination of a major party candidate. Why do they not want Florida looking into this, John? What do you think?
Well, I imagine because number one, they don't the Department of Justice, the FBI, all of these organizations that fall under the DOJ have not been forthcoming with anything over the last 8 years, 6 years. They've really been. When Trump won in 2016, look at the problems that he was having with the Department of Justice and the FBI, right? You just could not get them to be honest, to play right and fair. They refused to investigate the things that needed to be investigated, and they were investigating things that obviously did not need to be investigated. And so they can't be trusted. That's why DeSantis would want an investigation so that the Floridians, where it happened, can see justice for a crime that was committed in their state. And so that the American people can feel like there was a legitimate investigation and the truth is known. But the United States government has been good at telling the truth for a long time. So that's why. And the fact that they would block this it surprises me, but it shouldn't, I guess. Yeah. I want to make a quick correction, though. Yes, absolutely. We all believe that this guy did that. He has not been convicted of the crime yet. So, but yeah, he was there, right? That's not in dispute. He was he was not in the time machine. He was there from what we can see. They did catch him, right? I guess they have evidence. So he was not convicted. We're all assuming that he did it. But obviously he was not convicted of the crime yet.
Yeah, he did have a manifesto. He did have all the evidence is there.
This is what they published, at least, right?
Yeah.
And who knows what his contention is? His contention may be that all of this was planted, and he was just riding a bicycle, innocently past where they caught him, and he just happened to have those. He was planted with all those passports and IDs and and guns.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one.
Isn't that what they all say in jail? But anyway.
Yeah, that's what they all say. I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. All right, John. So this is interesting. Florida's mail-in voting numbers exceed the 2016 totals.
Yeah.
Vote by mail numbers in Florida have exceeded the 2016 election when former President Donald Trump won his first term in office. Florida county elections officials have mailed 3.52 million ballots to those who requested them, up from 2016 when there was 3.35 million ballots sent to voters, a 5.07% increase. The Florida Secretary of State's office update both vote by mail and early voting numbers on its website daily. Early voting in Florida started on October 22nd. That's still down 27.3% compared to 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic when 4.48 million cast their ballots through the mail. Scary, John. Scary. Mail-in voting.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, let's be honest. It's hard to trust the mail system. Look, the Orlando Sentinel was endorsing people, which we're going to talk about later, who specifically said that there were no issues. Like that was like their test, right? Like if you believe that voting is fair and there's no issue whatsoever, that's how they, endorsed you. Apparently,
Yeah, especially with the supervisors of elections candidates. Anybody that said they had no problem with the elections and they felt the elections were fair and honest, that's who they endorsed.
yeah, and I mean others, right? I mean, too, like any regular politician, you could have been running for dog catcher, and as long as you said that the election was fair and free and that Donald Trump lost, then they were happy to endorse you, it seemed like. But the fact is that the American people don't believe that way. Poll numbers have shown that the American people do not have confidence. Now, unless for you, what you think is a good number and what you think is acceptable is 50%, right? Just the way that they do with education. They think 50% proficiency is an acceptable number. Well, if you think that 50% of people thinking that the elections are fine or okay, or only 20% of people thinking that they're good, then great. But if you're okay with 40% of people thinking that the elections are not good, then you're an idiot. And the Orlando Sentinel has proven that they're idiots. And all of these government agencies, they need to look into this because now you're having more and more and more mail-in ballots. We've already shown. We've had videos in Osceola County of people stuffing ballot boxes, right? Witnesses counting. They didn't take their phone out because they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they pull up their phone. I mean, so you catch the tail end, but we've heard a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
So... and stories of people not monitoring the ballot boxes, which is a problem in and of itself that leads to a fine, which should have been levied against our own supervisor of election here in Osceola County.
Yeah, but as we see, John, nothing ever happens to her. Nothing. She's like
No,
Teflon.
actually gets
nothing
supported
sticks.
by the Republicans in Tallahassee. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, the Democrats have been very proud of themselves that they've fielded a candidate in every legislative seat. But did you know that some of these candidates live hundreds of miles away from where they're running?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they even recruited people in Africa to run for legislative seats here in Florida. They simply don't care. The Democrats do not care about bringing a carpetbagger. They do not care about bringing someone who doesn't live, doesn't know, is not familiar, and has no familiarity with the people or the community at all. Come in and take a legislative seat as long as they are throwing people into these races and having hot bodies. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we call them, carpetbaggers, John. They were trying to contest every single legislative seat. They did it. It's the first time in decades. In at least 8 of these races and 2 Senate races statewide, those Democrat candidates don't live in the legislative districts where they are running. This is according to recent voter registrations, candidate filings, and other government records. In some cases, they live hundreds of miles away from the voters they are courting, and many have struggled to raise enough money to compete credibly against Republicans. That's a good thing. Joel Vadola, 45, of Orlando, is running for House District 118 in Miami, more than 200 miles away. Days before Election Day, Vadola said in an interview he was still looking for a place to stay in South Florida. Vadola, the former manager of a steakhouse that closed during the pandemic, said he couldn't afford to move sooner. Yeah, okay. Why is that still up there? Oh, never mind. All right. So anyway, Charles Andrew Lewis, 68, a retiree in Tallahassee, was running for the Senate seat in District 39 in South Florida, more than 480 miles away at the other end of the state. Lewis, who didn't return phone messages, hasn't reported spending any money on the race so far. He is running against incumbent Senate Brian Avila out of Hialeah Gardens, who last won the seat by more than 24 points and had amassed more than $86,000 for the election. So very interesting, John, but it is legal for candidates to run for office in a legislative district where they don't live until Election Day, which is Tuesday, November 5th. Under Florida law, a candidate or incumbent must live and be registered to vote in the district where they are running at the time of the election and must maintain a residence in the district for the entire term they are elected. Lawmakers are allowed to own multiple homes, but can only have one principal or legal residence. The rules have been enforced unevenly by House leaders and state prosecutors in past elections, and we've seen that here locally, John.
Yep.
We've seen that here
Absolutely.
locally.
So you don't need to live in that at the address in your district until election day. But I mean, if this guy said he doesn't have the money to move there, yet what I mean, if he doesn't have the money, normally if you have a lot of money, it doesn't matter because you can go and sign a lease on election day, right?
Right.
Or on the day prior. If you think you're going to win or you're winning, boom, you sign the lease right there. You execute the lease. You move, you change your thing, you whatever, but you have to be registered at the same time. So you got to do all that stuff. It's all got to be prepared on that at that time. And if it's not, then supposedly you should be removed from your seat.
Yeah, that was my question, John, is what happens if this person wins and they decide not to move, or they keep with the excuse that they can't move, they can't find a place to live?
Oh, you're done. I think you get cooked. I mean, I don't know what I'm sure that somebody files a lawsuit, they have you removed, they make you ineligible. I mean, if you win, but I mean, when you look at even in 2016, right, almost all the counties in Florida were red. There were 9 counties that voted Democrat in 2016, right? And the third, they have like Miami, the basically southeastern counties in Florida voted. Then you have Orange and Osceola County. You have a county out there on the coast, near Tampa. You have a couple of northern Tallahassee up. We get a couple of counties near there. But other than that, by and large, and I think Alachua County. But by and large, you had all these counties are red. So what can they do? Anyways, they're not going to move to these counties. So they just run to waste the Republican money, to not make it easy, to be able to have a good headline and a press release, which is good. The Republicans should have done the same thing. Why not compete? When you control the entire state, you have the supermajority. If you were intelligent, you would bring the battle to them, right? Yeah. And so you go fight in these blue counties and spend money there and whatever. Not on maybe races that you're not going to win at all, but how about you help people cut their teeth in politics? So if you have somebody run for state legislature, then you bring them up the rank. You have them run. Maybe they can't win. Maybe it's an unfeasible race. But you spend a few $1,000s giving somebody the experience and then let them run for a local seat, a city commission seat or something else or whatever. But the point is, why not have people run? They're wasting money like crazy. They spend millions and millions and millions on attack ads against their own party people. So, I mean, there's definitely ways to do this. So it's a strategy. I mean, but I'm not, obviously it's not, none of this. Here's I guess the point of what I'm saying. None of the things that are involved in making these decisions on picking candidates to run for offices have anything to do with the benefit for the citizens or on how to serve your community better. It's all about the power in Tallahassee. It's Tallahassee that's driving these things. It's not the local community. Certainly the people in Miami didn't come to Orlando and say, hey, do you have anybody that can run for the state legislature down here? From Orlando? No, they don't care and they don't know. It's just the Democrat Party, both parties really in Tallahassee are living in silos and they try to control everything. They think that they're gods. Remember that movie, this is at your age, but Clash of the Titans? Yeah. Where the gods are moving pieces, right, from their worldly. That's how they see themselves, and it's a damn shame because it's very contrary to the foundational beliefs of our country that it's the people that decide, and we've seen them interfere in both parties interfere in our elections.
Yeah, we sure have. Well, John, one good thing that the Florida Republicans are doing is they're not playing when it comes to these deals happening, or at least in some areas of Florida. With ballots and problems with the election. Down in Miami-Dade, they fired this election employee after these ballots were found abandoned. Now, here's a video, John. This video is the guy who found the ballots and brought them where they need to go. Here, watch this.
Oh, boy. 2024 election. Look at that. Y eso está sellado. That's sealed. Look at that. Yeah, come and vote. Come and vote that we got you, and vote and vote and vote and vote. You know what? We all being cheated. Look.
Wow. So that was the guy who found them, and he was bringing them to where they were going. And you heard what he
I
had
wonder
to
where
say.
he found them.
Found them on the side of the road.
No way.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, man. I mean, so a person's fired. I wonder who was fired for that, and I wonder who should be fired for it. It should be the supervisor of elections, really. At the end of the day, that's where the buck ends, right? And that's where they should lose their job.
That's what Mary Jane Arrington always says. She says that the buck stops with her, right?
I don't think she knows what a buck means. Unless she's stealing it, she doesn't know what it is because, and I'm talking about elections, because you can't trust anything that the old bag says.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. You can't trust anything that she says. Here's the thing. I'll never trust her. We saw her on the news talking about something and then lying and blaming a small business. No way would I ever trust her. Wouldn't trust her with anything. Her full family. There's nobody in her family that I would trust.
No.
Apparently her husband's a nice guy, but that family is just so corrupt. Their son, the failed actor, corrupt. Cruella DeVille, his wife, corrupt.
Yep. No. Got a big problem with that here in Osceola County. Well, the Orlando Sentinel, and you alluded to this earlier when we started the show, John, that the Orlando Sentinel is very biased in their selections and their endorsements. Well, here's one that they definitely have to explain is they went ahead and endorsed Monique Worrell. Disgraced Monique Worrell, who reduced the sentences of many criminals, who was removed from office by Governor DeSantis. Well, they went ahead and endorsed her again. There she is, if you forgot what she looks like. Anyway, in June of 2023, president of the highly regarded Dr. Phillips Foundation submitted an op-ed to the Orlando Sentinel that was highly critical of then State Attorney Monique Worrell. This was also during the time period when many reports were surfacing that Governor DeSantis was considering removing Worrell from office, possibly explaining the Sentinel's decision to not print the op-ed.
Go figure.
In his editorial, Dr. Phillips Foundation President Kenneth Robinson shared a personal story that echoed the findings of a Department of Juvenile Justice report. The report found State Attorney Monique Worrell was twice as likely to drop violent felony and gun charges against minors than any other prosecutor across the state. The Sentinel editorial board cannot claim ignorance of Worrell's pattern of dismissing charges and endangering the public, even more so after hearing from the highly respected Dr. Phillips Foundation president, said a spokesman for Andrew Bain's campaign. This is evidence that Worrell cannot be trusted to hold the office of state attorney ever again. How many more people must die and be threatened before the Sentinel recognizes that Miss Worrell is not fit for this office? And that's a great statement from Andrew Bain's campaign, and absolutely true. Absolutely true.
I mean, the Sentinel makes no sense in what it's doing. Its operations are horrendous. We were looking at it earlier, right? They have a paywall behind the list of endorsees. So how relevant is it, right? And then, basically, so the only thing that you can do is look at the headlines of who they endorse. And they endorse nothing but crackpots. You have Monique Worrell, right, who lets criminals on the street. Okay, now let's say if that was the only case, and then they're chalking it up to the fact of this controversy with Andrew Bain and Tom Fighter and the governor and Seth, right? So it's okay, you chalk it up fine. But then you go up into the next headline, subscriber only, Tom Keene, Kelly Diana Miller, Lavon Bracey Davis, and Maria Reveles. So Maria Reveles is going against Paula Stark, who they liked, who she voted in the way that they liked, but they still go with the Democrat anyways.
Yeah,
right?
They endorsed Paula Stark the first time around when she was running the last time.
Absolutely.
Now they went ahead and endorsed her opponent.
So what in the heck did they do that she did wrong, that they didn't like? The big votes that they care about, she voted in favor of them, right? So it just makes no sense. And then, you have Soto. I mean, give me a break. The guy's like super. That's an easy one to represent, but he's become a super controversial guy when he was never that. And those are the best endorsements that they have. The other ones are all worse. They get worse and worse and worse. Of course, they endorsed all the liberal leanings on Amendment 4. They endorsed personal use of marijuana makes sense for Florida. That's the headline. I mean, it's a liberal rag. So why are they even a newspaper? Now they're just a newsletter of the party, of the Democrat Party. They also endorsed Kristen Arrington, right? So in my race, they endorsed Jose Martinez because he said that the election were trustworthy. And then they endorsed Kristen Arrington anyway. So what did that tell you? What they really wanted was for Kristen Arrington to win. Yeah. They did not want for her to lose. That's why that's what their game is. So they have no credibility. I can't believe that they would do this. They know that Monique Worrell is horrendous as a state attorney, but that's the kind of chaos that Democrat organizations want, and they promote that. Like they I don't think that they're shy about it anymore. If you look at the things that they've been writing, it's just getting worse and worse. They're not holding it back, and they have a opinion writer, Scott Maxwell, he's a Trump derangement syndrome victim. Yeah. So it's a shame that we don't have a newspaper that we can depend on anymore as a community, that this is just a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party. It's basically their PR firm.
Absolutely.
And one that doesn't even get paid for it, right? I mean, they don't get paid to be a PR firm. They just, they fleece the public that they're, force feeding this garbage that they write.
Yeah, they have a paywall on everything. So, I mean, they don't want you to really read it unless you're paying. So
I just want the headlines. So
yeah. All right. So unfortunately, this happened in downtown Orlando on Halloween night. Now, some people are calling this a mass shooting. You're seeing that on some social media sites. We're going to talk about that in a minute, though. But, yes, 2 people died, 8 people were injured. I think they brought the number up to 11 people injured at this point of this shooting on Halloween night in downtown Orlando. And Mayor Buddy Dyer went ahead and declared a state of emergency and instituted a curfew in downtown Orlando over this. There's old Buddy. The mayor's office issued this local state of emergency for the city of Orlando and downtown businesses. Downtown bars will end liquor sales at midnight, and there will be a curfew from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., specifically for the downtown entertainment area. The move was a reaction to the shooting that took place on Halloween night. Jalen Edgar was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 6 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm. 7 people were injured and 2 people were killed by the shooting, with 1 person being trampled as people fled. Those deaths mark the 18th and 19th homicide of 2024, according to Police Chief Eric Smith, who also shared at a press conference this afternoon that he would be increasing the police detail in downtown this coming weekend. And
why, if there's a curfew?
Yeah.
What's the point? What's the point of adding more cops to the street if you had a curfew? Yeah. You should be able to get the same amount of work done with fewer cops if there's a curfew, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of a curfew, is that you reduce the amount of stress on the situation. For me, this is an overreaction by Buddy Dyer. To me, it looks like he's looking for headlines himself, right? This is not a composed way to react to a shooting. If the crime is increasing, maybe you start dealing with those things when there are no shootings, right? When there is a shooting and you react all crazily like this by having a state of emergency, it's just very strange. I mean, you should have had enough cops there. Now, you can't prevent every shooting, but you can prevent the city from becoming Detroit. Right. And that's about leadership and so on. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that Buddy Dyer is a bad guy or anything. I'm just saying that this is not a very composed reaction. I don't think it's the right decision. I think that you can do your job without declaring an emergency. To me, this was a chance for him to show off a brand new Blazer, in front of the camera. That's what this is about, because it's just huge overreaction. I've never seen a city call a state of emergency over one shooting. In New York City, in New York City or in Chicago, they have a shooting every during lunch every day.
Yeah, and
You
this
know?
is the kind of things that you're inviting in the city of Orlando. You have these policies in place that invite these kind of things. Same as a city like Chicago, same as any of these other liberal cities that are out there. So why are we surprised? Why are we pulling this knee-jerk reaction when this happens? And I know that they're calling this on some social media sites a mass shooting. But this is not a mass shooting, or at least from what I see, John. I don't know what you see. We're going to watch this video. There's plenty of cameras downtown to catch this, and they did catch it. They did catch the guy. This is the video. It has no sound. We can talk over it. Now, the red circle, the guy in the yellow shirt, that's the shooter. That's Jalen Edgar. Now, I'm going to rewind this a little bit and pause this. He obviously, and you can see this, it's not like he just pulled out a gun and there he is shooting the first guy. And the little gray square there, that's covering the face of the intended victim. That was the intended victim. And I say it like that because this was intentional. He was shooting somebody specifically. The other person that got killed and the people that got injured were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But this was absolutely an intentional shooting. He was intentionally shooting the guy. The two people that died were both black people. The shooter was a black kid. He was 17 years old. They're saying he's going to be tried as an adult. He did not make his appearance at his first court appearance, which was today. I don't know, John. Looking at this, what do you think? Do you think this was a mass shooting in the classical sense terms? Or do you think this was an intentional shooting? He was targeting somebody.
Listen, you don't walk into a crowd let's say that you're trying to cause a mass shooting. You don't walk into a crowd and hold the gun away from you, looking away, walking away. He was trying to shoot a guy and be as incognito as you could be, right? Like blend in with everyone else. He was not a mass shooter comes in with the gun point, forward, right? Yeah. They're coming and they're shooting as many people as they can, and you don't do that reaching backwards,
right?
So clearly it wasn't a mass shooting. That wasn't his intention, in my opinion. At least that's not what it looks like to me. The guy who was shot, did he shoot him in the head?
They didn't say whether he got shot in the head or in the body. All they said was he was dead.
Well, so he ended up getting his intended target, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. He pointed the gun at that person. He shot that person. I don't know how many rounds he got off exactly, but it just doesn't have the impression of a mass shooting. So I don't know. Maybe Buddy Dyer's trying to make a political statement. Maybe he wants to do his own gun code or something like that. He's a liberal guy, but certainly this reaction, none of it makes any sense.
No.
And this is why, the community fails to trust leaders, because really, a state of emergency over how many murders have been in the city? They said it was the 12th? Is that what they said in the article?
The 18th and 19th.
Oh, the 18th and 19th. So, you have 20 killings in the city, not one state of emergency. And I'm sure that maybe some of the others might have merited it just as much as this one. I think that could also be part of the battle of downtown, right? Between some businesses and the city, where he's taking advantage and, he's hurting some of these, because there's some battles going on in downtown. Doesn't make any sense. I think, for me, the first thing that hit me when I saw this was that Buddy Dyer's looking for headlines and for a picture in the newspaper where he can show off his newest blazer.
Yeah, that's true, John. It's true. He is a media whore. So anyway, before we move on to Osceola County, John, we have this important message from T2G2 PAC.
We as Americans should always honor and support our veterans, especially those that have made huge sacrifices for our nation, but not according to Mary Jane Arrington. According to her, you should question their ability to hold public office.
I don't see where that's a problem. Do you?
I'm asking you.
No, I don't see where that's a problem. I mean, this is politics. And if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Knowing how she feels about disabled veterans, how she feels about ethnicity, how she has broken election laws, and how many questions surround her and her son after 16 years in office, isn't it about time we retire Mary Jane Arrington?
This message is paid for and approved by T2G2 PAC. It is not associated with any candidate or campaign.
Come on, guys.
Wow, powerful ad there. Powerful ad. All right.
Yeah, she's a disaster. We need to get rid of the supervisor of elections.
The more things you find out about Mary Jane Arrington is the more reasons you have to vote against Mary Jane Arrington.
And here's some context. The context is the commercial is actually about this poll that they had. It was basically a push-pull poll that they did, where you tell people, like, you call somebody and you ask innocent questions, and then you ask a question that is supposed to hurt your opponent, right? No. In this case, they asked, "Oh, what do you think about people born outside the country? What do you think about somebody who's disabled?" Right? And they were trying to put that in the voter's mind. And so the guy that the subject of those questions was a man who, as a young man in his 20s, I think he was a platoon leader in Vietnam, who lost his legs in Vietnam for his country. Okay, the guy's lost his legs in Vietnam, fighting for his country. And Mary Jane Arrington sent out, this poll, or her campaign team, or somebody associated with her campaign team, or a PAC on her behalf, or something like that, send out a poll saying, do you think that somebody who's disabled should be, giving the impression, that's what the question did, gave the impression that someone who's disabled should not be able to be the supervisor of elections. And it's just horrendous. She should have been thrown out of office right then. It should have dragged her out by her head. And then the other thing was, he was born, that guy who served his country, lost his legs, in service to his country, was born in the Dominican Republic. And he was a good guy. He is still a great guy. He's still all right. He's a great guy. But, and she says, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Listen, that's not what politics is supposed to be. That's what it's become because of you. Yeah. Right? That, the politics is supposed to be about service. It turned into this, cesspool of trash and excrement because of the Arringtons. The Arringtons are what make the place stink. It's not like, get out of the kitchen if you can't handle the heat. People like Petticini and Arrington and Horner, those people are the people that make politics disgusting. Yeah. It's just, and the Booths, Ricky Booth, Erica Booth, same thing. They make politics disgusting. So that's what that ad was. That's the basis of the context behind the ad.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John. So starting off Osceola County, this was a shocking story that came out, at least to a lot of people. The Kissimmee Police Chief resigns after 11 officers' truthfulness conduct questioned. Chief Betty Holland and Deputy Chief Camille Alicia stepped down. Here's the story.
The case has now turned into a major investigation of the Kissimmee Police Department. The state attorney saying a grand jury's findings have raised some concerns about the truthfulness of several officers. And now the police chief is stepping down. News 6's Mark Lehman is following the latest live. And Mark, the chief isn't the only one.
Yeah, her resignation came just yesterday, but it happened after the deputy chief stepped down last month. Now, both are among nearly a dozen members of Kissimmee Police who are now under investigation following that use of force case. A big shakeup is happening at the Kissimmee Police Department, and it's only days after the state attorney's office raised concerns about possible misconduct. Chief Betty Holland resigning from her post yesterday. Deputy Chief Camille Alicia has also resigned. The two were among 11 members of the department whose credibility is being questioned after the indictment of Officer Andrew Passeggio, who was accused of beating a man during an arrest. A letter from State Attorney Andrew Bain's office saying the investigation began due to Officer Andrew Passeggio's use of force in April of 2020. 2023, but as additional evidence came to light, expanded its focus into systemic issues within the department. Prosecutors say those issues included statements from the chief that were inconsistent with her sworn testimony. Holland was sworn in as head of Kissimmee PD in May of 2023. She had been deputy chief since 2018. Kissimmee city manager saying, "We fully support the dedicated officers who serve our community with integrity. However, for those who do not meet our high standards, we will ensure a thorough independent review of all allegations is performed and will make the necessary changes within the department to maintain trust." Kissimmee City Manager also requested that the Orange County Sheriff's Office take over the investigation. That's being led by Orange County Major Robert Anzueto, who was appointed as interim police chief. For now, reporting live in Kissimmee, Mark.
Wow. So
Man.
what they're saying is that Chief Betty Holland's testimony did not match up to what she stated in prior reporting. So saying that she wasn't being quite honest.
Yeah, this sucks. First of all, we want our cops to be honest 100%, right? But we also, at least I can, empathize and sympathize with their need to want to protect one another, right? And in a situation where you're always dealing with bad guys or suspected bad guys. And just like teachers, teachers get abused by students sometimes, and these cops get abused by bad guys, people doing bad things. So, I would rather, in a perfect world, okay, I'd rather a cop, if you fight with a cop and if you get batoned across the forehead a couple times, I'm not the type to get offended by it, right? If you just tell a cop, F you, and then you get a baton across the forehead, I got a problem with that, right? So there's a careful balance between our rights and the respect and dignity and the lifestyle that we want to provide are the people who keep us safe. So I don't know, but a police chief lying on the record, you can't do that. I mean, come on, it doesn't help the community. That doesn't help us, that doesn't help our community at all. And I don't know, when you have two women at the top, one as chief and one as deputy chief, and these cops, it makes me feel, and then you have that she's not even honest, right? And that she's willing to lie on this. It tells me one of two things. Either A, lying to her is not a big deal, right? She lies, it's no big deal. And I'm speculating, of course, or she was overwhelmed by the pressure of being chief and trying to fit in with protecting the cops, right? And not able to go against the grain. And both of those point towards a DEI pick, because a police chief has to be strong. A police chief has to be strong, right? You got to be able to do the right thing. And I'm not saying that men are more inclined to do the right thing. I'm absolutely not saying that's the case. But, and who knows, maybe men get away with more. But at the end of the day, you take a role, you take a job, then you got to be able to live up to it. And all of your weaknesses or perceived weaknesses come out to haunt you. And so I don't know, knowing that the city is, that the county and the city and Central Florida is overrun by liberals. And then you have two women chiefs and they both have to resign in less than a year. I mean, has it even been a year?
No, it had been 11 months, John. 11 months.
Yeah. So then, hey, you have to withstand the accusations of DEI. This is what happens when you pick DEI picks, right? Yeah. I can guarantee you that they're not the best cops on the force. If they were, they wouldn't be lying on the record and getting caught and having to resign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because the best cop is not going to lie. They're going to be like, you know what? I'm sorry. You hit the guy over the head with the baton. You weren't supposed to. I got to tell the truth. I can't. You got to deal with the consequences, right? It's not. So I don't know. I'm not even saying that the guy who got hit with the head over the head is a good guy, but nonetheless, you got to do the right thing when you're a cop.
Absolutely. Hopefully, Kissimmee can find somebody with honor, integrity, and courage to fill that position and get somebody else in there, because obviously there was definitely an integrity issue there at the Kissimmee Police Department.
Yeah, clearly.
All right.
And just to be fair, lastly, I would get further as a DEI pick in a police force than I would ever being myself, because I'd be hitting with people with batons all the time. It's not the job for me. So just.
It looks like Channel 13 was scraping the bottom of the barrel for stories, John, because this one popped up, but we'll talk about it. Cattle rustlers make off with $100,000 worth of livestock in Osceola County. And listen to this video, listen to it closely, and some of the things that they say in this video, and we'll talk about it after.
The Osceola County Sheriff's Office is investigating a large cattle theft at a ranch in Kenansville. Officials say some 53 one-year-old calves were stolen. Spectrum News 13's Randy Roush explains a modern-day cattle rustling that's taking place in one of Osceola County's biggest industries.
If there's anyone that knows cattle ranching, it's Kevin Whaley. His family has been raising animals on this Osceola County soil since the Civil War.
I've done it all my life, all I've ever done.
A living raising calves, yearlings, and cows on his 4,000 acres. It's big business across Osceola.
This county is probably one of the top 3 counties in the state for beef cattle numbers.
Of course, cattle ranching is big business here in Osceola County, and the animals are their inventory. And anytime there is theft, for the rancher, it can affect their bottom line.
Kevin knows about cattle theft. He's had cows stolen from this property. He says it's easy to steal from ranchers. Most of the time it goes unreported.
Or they get a tip or whatever that they know nobody's going to be around. They back their truck right up over there and load them on there.
Luckily, the thief was caught and sent to jail. Not far from Kevin at the Overstreet Ranch, a large cattle heist. According to the Osceola County Sheriff's Office, some 53 yearlings removed from pens and transported off the property in stock trailers unbeknownst to the owners. It happened sometime in September, and investigators say the cattle were estimated to be worth $100,000.
What we're looking at is it could have been someone from the inside that kind of knew these things were going to market, and because it's not just anybody access that.
Rancher and County Commissioner Ricky Booth, whose family has been raising cattle since the 1800s, says modern-day ranchers have to keep an eye on their stock, just as if they owned a department store. He suggests using technology.
We have cameras on our operation. I think a lot of folks have cameras on their operation, not just for seeing people come in, but for hunting as well. So,
rising beef prices, some fetching as much as $2,500 per head, is why some thieves turn to cattle rustling. Kevin says there's another reason.
And a lot of times it has to do with drugs. They're hunting money to pay for drugs or something. And like when they stole them from me, beef cattle prices had come way up.
We have people on the ground. We have other agencies that are helping us looking out to see if anybody is aware of anybody trying to get rid of some young yearlings. Any tips come in through Crime Line would be greatly appreciated.
A modern-day cattle theft that law enforcement hopes to solve. In Kenansville, Randy Rouse, Spectrum News.
Crime Line is offering a $10,000 reward to anyone with information leading to the arrest of the cattle theft at the Overstreet Ranch in Osceola County.
All right, so
wait. $10,000 for a theft crime? They're offering $10,000. This is
for
only because it's an Overstreet.
Worth of cattle.
Yeah, 10% of the reward. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is only because it's the Overstreets. Right, that's the only reason that they would offer $10,000.
The funny thing about this, John, is they didn't interview the Overstreets, right? They interviewed Kevin Whaley and Ricky Booth. Now, why they didn't interview Overstreet? And the thing is this, right? They interviewed Whaley, they interviewed Ricky Booth. This cattle theft happened in September, almost 2 months ago at this point. They're doing this story now. Sheriff Lopez says it was an inside job, and it probably was. I mean, who else would do it, right? Why is this a story? Why is this on TV? Why is Channel 13 putting this out here now?
Because it's the Overstreets. That's why they called the news station. it's one of these families and whatever. And here's here's a couple of things about this. Number one, Kevin Whaley looks like a rancher, right? That's a rancher. That what you just saw there. And then Ricky Bobby comes on, and he looks like the short bus version of the cowboy in the YMCA Village People song. I mean, one guy looks like a real man, and the other guy sounds like Forrest Gump in a cowboy hat.
Well, the thing is, John, Ricky Booth is being interviewed in his Osceola County commissioner vest, right? Don't tell me this wasn't a setup. You know what I mean?
This guy, why him? Why interview him? Oh, I got a camera up here. I got a camera. Oh, the miracle of camera. Some of these pictures even move. This guy is just that. Give me a break. Give me a break. In his Osceola County commissioner vest of all things. Just what a chump. What an absolute chump. But listen, this is a privileged family type of situation. I don't have anything against all the, the ranchers, obviously, right? I actually am a big fan of ranching, but and I don't have any issues with the overstreets, except that's the only reason they're offering a $10,000 reward is because it is them. And if it were the Partons, it would be, if they stole one cow from one of the, from Ricky Booth, they would be offering a $10 million reward for that one cow. So, and paid by the citizens, I mean, it's just silly.
It's ridiculous. And
Slow
why
news
this
day.
story is coming out now when this theft happened in September, I don't know. Especially when the sheriff is saying it was an inside job. So, anyway.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense to have this story because if you're still investigating it, I mean, come on, it's 1,000 yearlings. If first of all, I would love to have 100 yearlings, 53 yearlings, right? They said
53.
So I'd love to have I went for 1,000 to imagine that heist. So I would have loved to have 50 yearlings, and if you have property, you throw them on there, and you just man, it's restaurants. I guess I know my freezer would be stocked.
Yeah, absolutely. Have some beef forever. All right, John. So, Sunbridge Parkway. Some Osceola County residents have some mixed feelings about this project. Here's the story.
Sunbridge Parkway Extension Project. The county unveiled its findings during a community meeting after evaluating. The county residents got to share their thoughts about the county's.
Sorry.
No, a little technical difficulty there.
The county
Yeah, it's coming back.
Residents got to share their thoughts about the county's plans for the Sunbridge Parkway Extension Project. The county unveiled its findings during a community meeting after evaluating alternate corridors of varying length for the new roadway connection. Spectrum News 13, Sasha Tiemann is live for us in St. Cloud where tonight's public meeting took place. Sasha, what are residents there saying about the county's plans?
Well, Tammy, residents here have mixed feelings when it comes to this project. Now, while many understand the need for the project, given Osceola County's population growth and the increase in traffic, they say that they're concerned about the impacts, the potential impacts that this project could have on their neighborhoods, their environment, and even their property values down the line. It's an effort to alleviate traffic like this that residents in Osceola County are calling ludicrous. To ease this burden, county officials are working with FDOT to identify an alternative corridor for the extension of the Sunbridge Parkway that will give drivers a new roadway connection between Osceola and Orange counties.
This is just the first step in the process, and we're still very early in the alternative corridor evaluation.
The proposed roadway would connect drivers north to south from US 192 in Osceola County all the way to State Road 528 in Orange County. The project is currently in the alternatives corridor evaluation phase to determine which corridor would be most beneficial to residents. Residents like Chris King are already concerned. He says it takes his children over an hour to get home from school every day on a school bus, and that this will just make it worse.
They literally are, they're right there. but it's an hour. So then we're going to add 20,000 cars on top of that every day. That's going to be even longer.
Many are skeptical since a preliminary traffic analysis demonstrated that traffic along one of the recommended alternative corridors could expect to see over 20,000 cars per day, which runs from Nova Road to US 192. But the county wants to reassure residents that nothing is set in stone yet.
That's why we're looking at some of the corridors that we are. Social, environmental, community impact is part of what we're considering here tonight.
Now, Tammy, once the alternative corridor evaluations phase is complete, the county will then begin its project development and environmental study. Now, the county says that the design phase for the project is set to begin in the spring of 2025, but it has yet to find a consultant for that yet. Live in Osceola County, Sasha Tiemann, Spectrum News.
This is the thing, John. The funny thing about this is not being built for the current traffic problems that we're experiencing over by Narcoossee Road, by Nova Road, by those areas. This is
for development.
Sunbridge. Notice it's called the Sunbridge Project or Sunbridge Connector or whatever. This is what it's for. And already residents in the area are starting to receive these from eminent domain lawyers saying that your land could be taken by the government and outlining where this Sunbridge Parkway could end up through their land and how the government could be taking their land. Just insane, this whole road. But this is for the Sunbridge project. This is exactly what it's for. It's for those residents that are going to be moving into that area.
Yeah. So for people who are not even here yet, a community that's not here yet, they're going to come, they're going to fill it up, and it's going to be used. But so all the people that live here, they want you to leave so that they can, take over your properties and redevelop the entire Osceola County, because that's the only reason that you would torture people the way that the Osceola, aside from being morons, the only reason that they would torture a community the way that they are with traffic is to get rid of them. It's to force them to move.
Yeah. And that's the plan. All right, John.
Crazy.
So we showed that video at the beginning of the show. It isn't working. Osceola taxpayers frustrated with NeoCity's progress 10 years later. I think that's all of us. But here's the story, John.
744 zip code, an area booming with growth and development.
Yeah, and one project that's poised to attract even more newcomers to the area is Neo City. It's kind of taking shape along 192, just south of Silver Spurs Arena, close to downtown Kissimmee. Anchor Justin Warmoth joins us now with a look at that development. So, Justin, where do things stand today?
Well, Matt, look at the renderings here. They are certainly impressive. The vision is bold as well. A nearly 500-acre high-tech hub in the field of advanced manufacturing, producing products that help enable 6G, autonomous vehicles, and so much more. But a decade after Neo City was put into motion, this field of dreams here is hardly realized. Is it where you thought it would be in 2024?
Well, you kind of enter into this, they say you build it and it will come. I wish I understood better how slow that can actually be. It's over there.
Osceola County Manager Don Fisher has been involved in the Neo City plan since the beginning. The project's main goal, diversify the economy and bring thousands of high-paying jobs to a county that is heavily reliant on tourism and agriculture. Would you say this is the most important for Osceola County's future, this development's success?
It's certainly our most important economic development project, but we're doing this not to be in the semiconductor industry. We're doing this to grow high-tech jobs for our community.
So far, Fisher says the county has invested more than $300 million, taxpayer dollars, into Neo City. It's also received $500 million in federal funding in the past 20 months.
What the federal government likes about what we're doing is that because the county owns it, it's not going anywhere.
How many jobs has this created so far?
So far, it's about 140 direct.
It's not a lot. It's not enough. A lot of money, but not a lot of jobs. It's just not justifiable.
Nellie Hernandez and Jeremy Fetzer are with Osceola Action Committee, an organization formed a few years ago to fight the rapid growth in the county. They're frustrated with the lack of progress at Neo City, considering how much money has been spent. So it's failing in your eyes?
Absolutely, it's failing. Right now, it's just a money pit. It's a tax dollars money pit.
I would say it is failing. But I caveat that taxpayers have too much invested for it to fail.
Right. It can't fail.
It can't fail. We're $350 million into this project. This project has been fully funded by taxpayers. So to allow this to fail would be detrimental to our economy.
One of the original partners at Neo City was UCF, an anchor tenant at the technology park. But in 2021, the school pulled out of the project and Skywater Technology took its place, manufacturing semiconductors for the military.
Honestly, what UCF did was what all of Osceola taxpayers want to do. We've peeled back enough of the onion to say, this isn't working. But if we want to realize this bright future that the county manager puts forth in the county commission, again, when it comes to bringing in our key partners, our partners to build Neo City, we need to see them put skin in the game, bring capital, put cash into the project. It can't just be us as taxpayers.
How to express the value of this has been one of the more challenging things to get that message across. They're going to see results, they're going to see benefits. It's very similar to, we're not as big as Medical City, but the companies are going to start coming in. My view of it, we're in a 4-year run, not a 10-year run.
All right, so one of the 3 buildings on...
What an idiot. We're in a 10-year... He doesn't understand. It's 10 years. It's 10 years. The taxpayers have foot the bill, $350 million. 10 years down the line, they have 140 jobs. 140 jobs. And how many of those 140 jobs are people that commute to Orlando, who live in Orlando? So it's not even people here in Osceola County. You know, it created for $350 million. They could have, it's crazy. So what does he think? That in another 10 years, a 20-year lifespan, they'll spend $700 million. They'll have 300 jobs? What is he thinking? What does success look like? These things are not making sense. No. These things are not making sense at all. And what he doesn't realize is that they're the problem. Once they get rid of these county commissioners, you get rid of Don Fisher, this project might be able to be salvaged. But as long as Don Fisher's there, Neo City will always be dead on the vine. As long as Brandon Arrington is a county commissioner, Neo City will always be dead on the vine. As long as there's always a Ricky Booth on the county commission, the county, Neo City will always be dead on the vine. Why? Because real companies don't come and deal with idiots, right? So you can't have an idiot trying to sell $1 billion future. It will never happen. They know these people are successful people. They actually have had jobs, okay? They just didn't wipe bullshit off of their feet, or they didn't have a nothing job ever in their life. They actually are real people who come here with billions to invest. They're not going to invest it with the county commissioner that is corrupt and that has no integrity and that has no vision for a future. It'll never happen. And I let one escape me. I realize that, but nonetheless, it's just it's ridiculous. $350 million and 140 jobs. 140 jobs for $350 million. They should. That's just crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so much suffering. All the transportation, our traffic problem is because of Neo City. So we traded $350 million. We traded an hour traffic problem in every corner of the county where there's an hour-long traffic. Those are the prices that we paid for 140 jobs, the majority of which are from people that don't even live in Osceola County. Yeah. I mean, how does Fisher have his job still?
You know, every Osceola County taxpayer should be pissed off. You should be angry about this. You should be up in arms, but they're not. So many people are tuned out. They just don't care. They're just like, what can I do? You should be upset about this because this is outrageous how much money has been dumped into this thing, and there's nothing for us. Nothing whatsoever.
It's crazy.
These high-tech jobs that they keep promising that are going to come out of this thing, 10 years have gone by. They haven't happened. Don Fisher says, you got to look at it as 4 years, not 10 years. And he cites...
No, we got to look at it for 50 years.
Pandemic. The pandemic was a year and a half, 2 years. What happened with the other 6 years? This is ridiculous. those high-paying jobs, they're not coming to any Osceola County resident. They're coming to somebody else who's going to move here and take that job. So keep that in mind.
I mean, it's not. This is a 30-year plan. You and I will be old, very old men by the time that this thing has taken a root. I mean, this is, like the Bible says, when you throw seeds, on rock, what's going to grow there? And that's what they've done. They have basically. I mean, this is crazy that we've allowed it $350 million for the level of return. These people should be fired. Most people are fired for this. Most people are fired for this kind of a disaster. All the county commissioners who are involved, have been involved, should be fired. They should be banned. They should be sent to the island of Elba. Okay, they need to be sent to the Falkland Islands. This is in exile. This is ridiculous. It's crazy that we allowed this to happen to us. Absolutely. And people are still. So if you're going to go on your ballot and you're going to vote yes to give more environmental money, it's for Neo City. What they need is money to be released, money to continue spending on these things. But they need money released from the general fund so that they can spend on Neo City to keep appearances alive. That's what they're doing. And right now, they're in crisis mode. They're trying to save their jobs. They're not trying to save Neo City. That's why they paid a company $5 million. And I wonder if there's a bunch of kickbacks coming back, because that's the only way that they'll be able to survive. I'm sure that only a bigger moron would hire Don Fisher to be their county manager somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, the Orlando airport didn't want to take him, so there you go.
Yeah, they have anything to do with them. They're like, oh, what's your great project? Yeah, I know, me too. What's the biggest thing on your resume? Neo City? Next. No. I mean, give me a break.
Well, John, this is interesting, and we're going to kind of wrap it up. We're not wrapping it up just yet, but we're almost there. But this is one of the last stories. The Republican Party of Osceola County challenging the campaign sign restrictions that were just enforced recently, a couple of days before the election. They say it violates state law. Here's the story, John.
Commitment 2024, Republican leaders in Osceola County are demanding to know where campaign signs can and cannot be placed tonight.
They claim they have been banned from putting signs at polling locations outside the usual 150-foot no solicitation zone. West News' Christina Watkins tells us why the county says it's not political, but rather a code violation.
We'd like to call on the county supervisor of elections to do her job.
With early voting underway, the Republican Party of Osceola County says they've got an issue with the supervisor of elections office and the county.
The bureaucrats in Osceola County notified all the candidates that they're actually prohibited from placing political campaign signs outside polling locations and outside the 150-foot no solicitation zone.
That's the entrance where people vote early at the Osceola County Supervisor of Elections office, and normally this entire area is lined with campaign signs. Now, the only sign you see is telling people to vote early. That's because on Friday, the county sent an email to all candidates, both Democrats and Republicans, reminding them about a land development code that prohibits temporary signs on county-owned properties. This includes right-of-ways, government offices, and polling locations at publicly owned properties. All signs within those county-owned properties had to be taken down.
And this is a desperate attempt by Democrat-run Osceola County government to silence political speech at the last minute. It's election interference. That's what it amounts to.
Republicans argue this move violates state law.
The Florida legislature, when they made the law, they made this applicable to any public or private party used as a polling site.
However, a county spokesperson told West 2 it could appear this decision is political in nature, when the decision, they say, is simply about applying the county land development code fairly to all properties in the county, including our own. As for the supervisor of elections, the spokesperson said they do not control anything outside of the 150-foot no solicitation zone. In Kissimmee, Christina Watkins, West 2 News.
We reached out to the chair of the Democratic Party of Osceola County. Stephen Wells said in part, quote, "All candidates actively running have received the statement, and I know most have followed it. From what I heard, the Republicans went all over the county, breaking the existing ban on signs in public right of way."
All right, so you know, first of all, they did reach out to the chair of the Democratic Party of Osceola County. And if you don't know who he is, Stephen Wells, he is the illegitimate son of Liberace. Here he is. If you've never seen him before, there he is. Yeah.
First, I don't think so. Liberace and a troll from under a bridge is what, you know. He looks like one of those fawns that has goat feet. Listen, this guy's a joke. But what kind of joke is gonna listen? The whole reason that they're doing this is because they are feeling under pressure. Okay, we talk about all the reasons all the time that they should be removed from office. Well, that's beginning to have an impact. You know, the fighting, the struggle, and this is really our faction that created the situation. This is our movement that created the situation. The anti-establishment movement in Osceola County created the momentum, right? The amount of money that they have had to pay and fight with to preserve their seats, to get rid of me and so on. I mean, it's having an impact. So this is just another way for them to use their power to win a seat because they need to. Yeah. They need to. And who knows? I think that, first of all, this is ridiculous. However long I've lived in Osceola County, however long you've lived in Osceola County, we've seen these signs. Yeah. You're allowed.
This has never ever been enforced until now.
Never, and it's only because they're all feeling vulnerable, right? And it's because they're the worst of the worst that they feel compelled to do this. This is not about being fair. They're never fair. How can a county commissioner who sells a property valued at half what she sells it to the county ever think about what's fair? No. Right? I mean, they're full of crap. They're full of crap.
Do you think, John, that maybe these no more Arrington signs that have been popping up have anything to do with this? That they might be hurt by this, and that Brandon made a call, and then Mary Jane made a call, and now these signs have popped up, and they're like, you know what, we have to get rid of these signs.
What did the sign say?
No more Arringtons.
Okay, so I think I've seen some anti-Arrington signs go up. I have not seen a disclosure on any of those signs.
Yeah, let's just say that this show and the two individuals on this show have nothing to do with those signs.
No, I love those signs, though. I wish I could get my hands on them. So I have nothing to do. I have nothing to do with the signs, but I want those signs, and I wish. I mean, I would print them. If I had more.
Whoever has those signs, please get some to John and get some to myself. We need some in St. Cloud. We need more coverage of these signs. We need them everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I could use some of those signs, and I think in the next election cycle, we're going to start planning now for the next election cycle in case there are any survivors from the establishment, and whoever they are, we're just going to go at them hard. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I think that there's going to be a lot of change between now and the next election cycle, but so
I hope so.
I don't know, a crazy election cycle. You know, we just got to pray for these elections. Pray that the people of Osceola County, of Florida, and the United States, they stand up for themselves, and instead of just doing the terrible thing of letting these people continue in office, of building new neo-cities problems, new traffic problems. So.
Before we wrap up the show, John, there's been an incident. There's been a lot of craziness this election cycle, and we've seen a lot of it coming out of Kissimmee. We had the incident where one of the mayoral candidates tried to get into a fight with a supporter of another candidate. We had signs being taken down and ripped down and messed with. Now we have a guy standing out there disparaging another candidate, telling lies about this guy, and we're not going to play the sound from this video, but there is a video. Let me show it. Here it is.
Listen, if you see this guy, okay, ignore him. He's got like an anti-Jim Trout sign. He's got a big shaggy beard. He looks like he just escaped from a mental institution. That guy, avoid him. He dresses
like a 16-year-old, you know.
Avoid him like the plague. Okay, this is this guy is a problem. Spreading lies. I'm sure he's going to get sued for the things that he's been saying. So avoid him. Don't go anywhere near him. Yeah. This is not a a pleasant interaction, believe me. So just be careful with, basically public service announcement to the voters to be careful who you interact with. If they look crazy, just take them at their word.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have to imagine that somebody who's going around to different polling locations holding a sign that says, "Don't vote for this guy, ask me why," that this guy has to be out of his mind. Don't you have better things to do? Don't you have a job? Don't you? You know what I mean? Instead of doing
Unless
that.
you see me out there with an anti-Arrington sign, then I'm okay. All right.
And don't take me wrong. You know what I mean? If I'm at the polls and I have an anti-someone sign, fine, that's cool. But don't try and ambush a voter and tell them, I'm going to tell you about this guy. Don't vote for this guy. Don't ambush cars coming out of developments, because this is something this guy has been doing.
Yeah.
He's been
This is harassment. What this guy is doing is harassment.
Stopping cars coming out of a development and telling them don't vote for this guy. He has an axe to grind. He's obviously got some serious issues going on. Don't listen to this guy.
Yeah, don't just go out there. Hey, listen, get out there, vote. Early voting today and tomorrow. Please go out and vote if you have not voted yet. Make sure that you get that ballot in. I got my ballot in my hand right now. I'm going to go turn it in today. So please get out there, go vote, go vote, go vote. Make sure you vote for Jim Trouts. He's the right guy for the job in Osceola County. Really, that's a super important race. If you live in Kissimmee, please vote for my wife, Nicole. She should be on your ballot too. But get out there and vote. Do your job. Get out there and vote for Trump. Okay, we cannot trust this. There's all kinds of shady stuff already going on, even in Florida.
We've highlighted it on the America Show.
Yep.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Over and over.
And like and share the show. Please check for those invites. Accept those invites. We really appreciate you watching. So thank you. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Like and share the show. Also, look, we're going to be adding some additional projects and stuff. So keep an eye out for those things. But like and share the show. We need your support.
And
Thanks.
remember, we are in podcast format. We are on Spotify. We are on iHeartRadio. We are on. We're going to be on Google Podcasts.
iTunes.
Yeah, iTunes. So check us out. Hear us in the car, and we'll see you next week.